Manuel, hello. How you doing, dude?
Good. I think I'm as tired as you are, but like we're professionals. We're great at this, so I think we got this.
That's right. We are professionals. We're pros. This is what we're supposed to be
Unparalleled.
doing. I'm
Yeah.
sure you are kind of old hat at doing this by now. I mean, you just put out a record, so I imagine you've done a whole bunch of these recently. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair to assume.
I mean, let's start there. Like the new record came out last week. It's the fourth album. How are you feeling? Are you relieved? Are you anxious? What's the pulse like?
I feel relieved, I have to say,
Okay.
because I mean, the last I want to say 2 months has been me like doing interviews with people like you who
Yeah.
will never ever tell me, listen, the album is shit. So I was like in the limbo of not knowing, and now that it's out, it's like, yeah, of course, some people like it, some don't, but at least
Yeah.
I kind of know, so that's good.
I mean, that's pretty crazy to think that you've already got a sense that some people don't like it. Are we talking like critics? Are we talking fans? Have people just been slagging shit on it straight away?
No, but I mean, just in I want to say stark contrast to our previous releases, there have been people who were not happy with the changes in our tone,
Okay.
and I
Yeah.
think that's what I kind of expected too. But just like that Damocles sword of not knowing was hard, but now it's way better.
I love how you're like evoking like ancient myth and tradition to kind of like give it some dramatic heft and weight there. I love that.
Gotta.
Uh, yeah, dude, I think first of all, I can only speak for myself, but the record isn't shit. I think it's actually really good, and I quite enjoy it. Um, I might even go as far to say that it's my favorite record in the whole catalog, at least the one that's connected with me so quickly up front and only just, a handful of listens. But before we kind of get into that, I wanted to kind of put you in the hot seat a little bit and get you to kind of dig into the band in a general sense. I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you, what do you think is the most misunderstood thing about your work with Zeal and Ardor? What do people seem to not get? Or what do you wish that they would get?
I mean, there's a couple of things, but it's also, I guess, my expectation of how much I want people to understand it, or
Mm,
my not being cool with them having different ideas of it.
yeah,
Because try as I might, I will never have someone have the exact same idea of something that I put out like I did.
sure.
And that is, you could see that as a futile thing or as something beautiful and liberating.
Hmm.
And I decided for the second one. But the most misunderstood thing about us, it's hard to say. Like there's one comment that said, like, I can't get into their music unless I would be a hard leftist, which I feel like I, okay, that's
What?
seems like a lot of things like you have to handle. Um, but
Yeah, I'm
that's
not sure
just
if
the
that's
thing.
really on you. You know what I mean? Like
That, but
that sounds like a them problem, if I'm being honest.
yeah, but I mean, in the same vein, I can't expect people to have exactly the same things or ideas that I have. And
Sure.
I think, yeah, it's a two-edged sword there.
Yeah.
It's a Kilonova. Kilonova coming. Yes, sir.
I was reading
Mm.
a very good feature that you did with Kerrang magazine in the UK. That did a really good cover feature on the band and the record that digs into a lot of this stuff, which is kind of how I framed our discussion for today. And in that feature, you talk about how Grief is an album fundamentally about processing and about trying to come to terms with personal things, dynamics within the band, your relationship to the music industry, the general political hellscape that we live in, a whole range of different things, but fundamentally about processing and trying to kind of reorient yourself based on this knowledge and understanding. So I wanted to kind of dig into that a little bit with you. Now that the record is out and people are kind of doing that journey for themselves, what do you hope people will get out of the record? How do you hope they will process the record?
I think there's just a little bit more hope in this record because it's
Yeah.
of course it's about strife and struggle, but I think the end result or the aftertaste should still be one of, I guess, closure to a certain degree, or just having achieved something. And I think that's what I would be really happy for people to take with them.
Was there, I guess, like a conscious decision on your part in, I guess, like trying to conceive of the record as a whole to take this kind of, I guess, like folklorish tradition from your childhood and from your hometown and use that as, a metaphor, for a lack of better term, to kind of become the concept for the record? Because there's so much wrapped in that story, there's so much wrapped in that tradition that I find parallels what you're doing with this project and what you've been doing across all of these records. Did that occur to you up front, or is that something that kind of came through the process as you were putting the record together?
A lot of things just kind of fell into place.
Okay.
At first, I was just looking for something because, this is the first record where every person in the band is playing their own instrument on the actual recording.
Yeah.
So I was looking for something that kind of meant something to us all, and us being from the same town. This was this weird tradition that we all had seen as kids, and it kind of it's like this the first part of like one of those longer Stephen King movies where they have like the childhood part.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that thing for us. But then the parallels of it, it's like it's this amalgam, this griffin figure that walks through our town, and we as a band, as individuals, are also an amalgam when we get together, and it just kind of felt right, is all. But it would be a lie of me to say like this was very, very brilliantly planned for me from the get-go. No,
I think like all the best ideas, like a lot of the elements have to kind of come up spontaneously or kind of come to the surface, right? Like if you have it all meticulously planned out from the beginning, usually you get halfway through and start chucking things away or retooling things anyway, or at least that's my experience in anything I create, right? So
it's exactly that.
yeah, I can understand. I think what interests me so much about the record and about this story that frames it is that the idea of this tradition where the townspeople, dress up in this pantomime of different mythological creatures and then essentially come together in a collective communal kind of bacchanal to stick it to the man and do this like anti-feudal expression of like, fuck the aristocrats. We're just going to vibe. We're just going to have, town time. I think to me, like, first of all, that sounds fantastic. And if that wasn't a conceptual record, it would still be sick. But I think with what you do with it on the record, it becomes really powerful because I see what you're doing with Zeal Ardor very much strikes a similar chord in sticking it to, the man, but a lot of different types of authority, types of conformity, and preconceptions about what black metal could be, what about, traditional black music could be, and what an amalgam of those two things could be. And you've been working through that record after record. I guess, I kind of see Zeal Ardor as a chimeric beast, an amalgam of sorts, and it's fully realized on this record in a way that I don't think I've heard before.
Yeah, it also took like a little bit of reflection because like the past 7 years we've just been reacting to things.
Yeah,
like we got oh my god, we get to play gigs, oh my god, we get to be on tour, oh my god, we get to do another record. So you just kind of react to things. There's no like planning stage really up until now, and I think we have the luxury of thinking about what we did. And yeah, I mean these are my friends now. This is no longer just my silly project, but it's our chimera, like you said. And that's the beauty of it.
I'm gonna keep turning eyes to Fend.
it's often like a buzzword that, you know, journalists and music critics will use, but like this is perhaps the most mature Zeal and Ardor record, I think, in terms of just coming to grips with what the project is. And as you rightly pointed out, like it is a collective endeavor now, and it has grown from something that was, you know, just you in your bedroom responding to people on the internet and being like, yeah, I'll do that. Whereas now it's this, you know, multi-person endeavor. It's a job, it's a livelihood, it's a career, as well as art, as well as expression. I wanted to kind of dig into the sonic evolution a little bit, because that early origin of the band with the you know, incorporation of field hymns and gospel chants with, you know, icy kind of black metal, I think has kind of progressed on this record to something more approaching like Delta blues, and I hear a lot of like funk and groove, a really strong rhythmic component to the record. Was that again something that was conscious up front, something that kind of seeped in as you were putting together material? You were like, oh, this kind of has a bit of groove going on here. Let's develop that a little bit.
I think it was just a consequence of trying stuff out. Like at first I did a couple of like Zeal and Ardor field chant A part, then evil Norwegian guy B part songs. And I just didn't really feel it. And I think
Yeah.
had I put that out, that would just people smell that sort of bullshit or that disenthusiasm, to invent the word.
Great word.
And then
Let's roll with it.
yeah. And then I just elected to do what do I actually want to do, and then these songs came out, and it's fun because like I feel part of them are on as wiggly feet as the project was at the beginning, but it's new, interesting wiggly feet, so I'm far more involved.
Yeah. I would also imagine, like, as the band has grown and, you know, the shows have probably gotten bigger, the profile of the band has increased, you would naturally start to find an inclination to play to larger crowds, to larger rooms. And I feel that the music would start to kind of change based on those conditions, right? Like you're probably picturing in your head, like, what can I do with the band that will get, you know, a stadium of people to kind of be vibing along, as opposed to like 10 dudes in a basement just like really really vibing what I'm doing. And I feel like the energy on this record is very much designed for larger rooms, for stadiums, for crowds. Like it's very hypnotic, very enchanting. The groove again is like a key element. Like you can headbang to this if you want to. Do you find yourself trying to picture the live environment when you're recording stuff?
I actually try not to, but maybe that was
Okay.
a subconscious thing. No,
No,
because
that's
like
super interesting.
in my experience, everything can be somehow translated to live.
Okay.
And if I were to kind of, inhibit myself from the get-go,
Yeah.
I might make just more boring music. But maybe this was just a consequence or like some subconscious thing of I want to be a star. But I don't think that's the case. I mean, also, in my experience, when I try to cater to an audience, it just never really works, which was
Yeah.
kind of what I tried with those first couple of songs. Like, I know they want this will be fun. And it just wasn't. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
As you dropped on me.
I don't know, dude. I think this is the record where, you know, if that's what you wanted to do, there are songs on this record that have that spirit. Like, there's some swagger on this record. Like, if you really wanted to get out there and strut your shit, like, you could do that if that's what you wanted to do. Like, Disease, Sugarcoat, like,
It is struttable. There's some
strut on there for
some
sure.
struttage. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, you know, I've been listening to the band since the inception, And this is the first record that I would describe as fun. And
Yep.
that feels strange to say, but like it is. It's a fun record, and I enjoy listening to it more and more and more. Did you have that realization, like listening back to it? You're like, oh, this is upbeat, and wow, I'm
Um,
capable of that.
that was also just in the writing process, because like there was a lot of emotions that I kind of inhibited us to actually do.
Yeah,
That one of them being fun, or just like an upbeat song. And I think it's kind of rare in the metal world to have like a fun song. I mean, there are a couple of them, but
sure.
yeah. No, I'm really happy we leaned into this, because we have to play these songs for at least 2 years. And if it's just like, okay, here's another song about feelings and rain in London, that's not going to be a great time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I can totally get that impulse. And I mean, like, this project is born from a really kind of interesting creative experiment, right? And
Yeah.
I would imagine trying to keep that spirit alive on multiple records would eventually become difficult if you're trying to restrict yourself to certain themes, certain sounds, and you're not allowed to, I don't know, get fun with it or to get upbeat with it. Like you've got to be able to harness different moods to be able to get different forms of expression. And I think creating, riffs that are headbangable and creating songs that can strut and songs that make people feel good, like that's a cool thing. Like that must feel awesome to be able to look through the catalog and be like, yeah, we've got some dark shit, we've got some sad shit, but we've got some fun ones too.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about putting together sets now, because we can like curate a little bit of a
A vibe, the sine
yeah,
wave.
yeah. So I'm really happy with that.
Yeah,
And
fuck yeah.
it's funny because like metal is such a performatively angry thing that
Yes.
a happy song might ruin it for some people, but it's 3 minutes, man. We'll get through it. And if you catch yourself smiling, that's fine too. So
Yeah, it's fine. It's all good.
exactly.
In the Kerrang feature, I was reading a particular bit where you were talking about Kilonova. You were talking about just how stoked you were that's a song on the record.
Mhm.
It might be my favorite on the record, and maybe even my favorite song you've ever done. It kind of blew me away on first listen, and I was like, "Is this the same band? What the fuck is going on?" Talk to me about Kilonova. It's funky. It's fun. It's a great song.
Yeah. It just started with me just looping certain small little guitar pieces.
Mm.
And it just in a kind of old school funk way. And then I started putting distortion on it, and it started to sound like Tool for some reason. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And I just leaned into it. And yeah, that was a fun one. And I'm eager to make more weird experiments like that. It's
Yeah.
good.
We'll be the first. Nobody else will even try. It's gonna burn.
Now that the band is a fully kind of collaborative endeavor and essentially more democratic in a lot of its form and function, was that something, like you said, like you leaned into it? Was that something that I guess you were hesitant to kind of show to the rest of the guys? Were they on board? Were they like, this rocks, let's lean into this?
I mean, they don't really have too much say in the matter, but
Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there.
that was, I think it's just more who we are, because
Yeah.
none of us is like I'm gonna go to the side of this cliff and howl at the moon because it's solstice to types, and we're just fun people, I guess. And it seems more honest to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think the band has always had a very strong sense of identity, and a strong sense of authenticity. Like I've never felt that any aspect of the band on record or live is like performative, to use the word that you were talking about before. And I think that's such a hard line to walk, right? Because like what you're doing is essentially performance, for a lack of a better term. So like it's hard to kind of have something that comes across as authentic while still kind of being self-aware and conscious of the thing that you're doing. And on this record in particular, like I hear a lot of that personal struggle, and there's very much stuff that resonates with me in a way that I don't think previous records had. And I'm not entirely sure exactly what element I'm referring to. It just like seems to strike more of a chord with me anyway. Seems like
I
a very
think,
personal individual record.
yeah, it's less fiction, I guess. I
Okay.
think with the other albums I was addressing, like, socioeconomical things, and that's valid and very true too. But it would be I was never a slave. I couldn't tell you that the struggles I've personally been through. But
Sure.
with this record, as trivial as my struggles are in comparison to those, I've actually been through them, and maybe that's something that's easier or more direct to convey.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the thing.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. And yeah, I guess like like everyone has their own kind of pain, right? Everyone has their own kind of suffering, their own kind of struggle. And if you can tether your art and your expression to some kind of universal experience like that, then that makes it a lot more relatable for people. To kind of bring things back to what we were talking about at the beginning, with that crazy comment about how you have to be a wild leftist to get into Zeal and Ardor, and you can't be from anywhere else in the political spectrum. I think that's super interesting, and I kind of wanted to get your take on something a little bit outside of the band. But a friend of mine published a book last year on black metal and radical politics. It's called "Tonight It's a World We Bury," and he was basically talking about the troubled kind of history of black metal with the far right and European nationalism and all that sort of stuff. And he was saying, like we as people on the left shouldn't look to reclaim black metal. We should just use it as a weapon. And he was like, and he lists all these different characteristics of the sound. And then he kind of talks about how it can be used to advocate for different causes, advocate for different things, for justice and revolution movements and leftist politics, whatever you want to do. So my question to you is like, if black metal is to be used as a weapon, how would you like Zeal and Ardor's music to be wielded? How should people use what you do and the art that you create? How should they be wielding it?
There's a lot to unpack there. I mean, what is the difference between unclaiming and using it as a weapon?
Yeah.
Anyway, but I mean, yeah, to answer your question, I think if you want to weaponize it, I guess just because the most valuable thing you can do is actually be very enticing to the opposition. Not even from, I mean, we've seen what's happening in the US where there's people who no longer talk to their family members because they have different views.
Yeah.
That is wild. I don't that is insane.
Yeah.
So as hippy dippy as it might seem, if it has some unifying aspect to it, I would love for that to be the mace.
Only when the day come you can sail away, my child, my dear, my child, my love, my love.
If you come from a side of the political spectrum where you advocate for community, solidarity, trying to like bring people together, right? Then using music as something to unify and appealing to those universal kind of traits that we were talking about before, like that's something that can bring people together rather than sow division and try and divide people and split people into different camps. That's the type of shit that the far right and nationalism love to do. They love to put people into little boxes and be like, those people suck. Fuck those people.
But for young people, I think, for us, I think, or for me personally, like to be anti is the kind of cool thing, to be the contrarian.
Yes.
And
very
now
much so.
that the left is kind of the status quo, to be an edgelord, you kind of have to be a right winger. And I think that's also the fucked up thing. You're no longer the underdogs.
That's right. I don't know. Is there room for Zeal and Ardor to be the underdogs? Do you think you're the underdogs?
I don't know, man. I'm talking to someone on the other side of the world at midnight. I think that boat has sailed. But I mean, I'd love to be I'd love to be representative of them, but it would be absolute hog shit if I would tell you, like, we're the suffering people. I mean, I'm not a fucking millionaire or anything, but it just seems like that's kind of a reach.
No, I feel you, dude. I feel you. Look, we might kind of wrap things up there. I'll give you a couple of minutes to regroup before you have to jump into the next one. But dude, thank you so much for taking time out of your midnight to talk to me. I appreciate that.
This was a treat.
Yeah, thank you, dude. And the record is great. I think it's fantastic. So you should be very, very stoked.
Thanks, man. Amazing.
Awesome. All right, Manuel, thank you very much for your time.
Happily. Cheers, Owen.
Thanks, mate. Subscribe now to the Pitch of Discontent Patreon to receive access to extended cuts of our bonus episodes, as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes content, monthly Patreon-only episodes, member-only votes, the TPD community chat, and much more. Go now to patreon.com/tpdpod and join for as little as $5 a month. That link again is patreon.com/tpdpod. Thanks for watching the show.